Well, hello, and welcome to Opal City Confidential, a Starman podcast, episode 28. And we're back with the next chapter of Sins of the Child in Starman Volume 2, Issue 14. And, as always, I'm excited to talk Starman because, he's my jam. So let's kind of go to Mike's Amazing World, get the pertinent data of this issue, and then I'll jibber jabber about it. So this is Starman Volume 2, Issue 14. It was released on the 10th of October, no, the 19th of October, 1995, just 9 days before my 31st birthday. Ooh, ouch. Cover, it's a wonderful cover of the O'Dares. It's Jack and three of the O'Dares. Lovely Tony Harris, pencils, inks, colors cover, as always. Main star. As the main characters in this issue are Jack Knight, Starman, Clarence O'Dare, Matthew O'Dare, and Hope O'Dare on the cover. This issue was cover dated December 1995. And this again is a chapter in Sins of the Child. This is Sins of the Child Part 3, The Opal's Day. The O'Dare's Day. So we get to see the city's day and the family of the O'Dare, and it's a great spotlight on the O'Dares. I absolutely love it. This comic's 22 pages, scripted by the amazing James Robinson. Pencils on pages 1, 14, and 19 by Tony Harris. On 2, 3, and 10, Stuart Inneman. On pages 4 and 6, Tony Harris. Chris Bouse on pages 7 and 9, Andrew Robinson, pages 11 through 13, Gary Erskine, pages 15 through 18, the amazing Amanda Connor, pages 22 to 22, inker Wayne Van Grawbadger, pages 1 through 14 and 19 through 22, and Gary Erskine, pages 15 and 18. The colorist is Gregory Wright, the letterer Bill Oakley. This is the main characters are Barry O'Dare, Clarence O'Dare, Mist Nash, Mason O'Dare, Matt O'Dare, Brian Savage in A Vision, Hope O'Dare, and The Shade. This book has been reprinted in Starman number 2, Night and Day. That was the second trade paperback in 1997. The hardback omnibus in 2008, and then the softback version of it in 2012. I'm reading my hardback. My hardback's falling apart. It's got a big tear. Oh, it's awful. It's traumatic. Starman does not appear in this chapter because it's not his chapter. Oh, here is the synopsis from the DC Fandom Wiki. During Nash's killing spree, she also murders retired Commissioner Red Bailey. Meanwhile, Clarence O'Dare stops a robbery, Mason O'Dare saves some hostages, and Hope O'Dare chases another set of robbers across a rooftop. She's nearly killed by one of them before the Shade kills him instead. That is a very truncated version. I'll kind of go through it as I go through the issue. Seeing if there's any trivia. Not seeing any real trivia on this. Let's kind of go back to this amazing volume of comic book joy that is Starman, Volume 2, Issue 14. The last thing we saw was Ted thinking about where his son was in the last issue. And I love it. On this issue, we have a nice cover page here by Tony Harris. And it starts great. It says, the title card is The Opal's Day, The Dare's Day, Sins of the Child, Part 3. It's a good day, at least as it starts, for Barry O'Dare. He has a date. Tonight. Claire, a nurse, with big breasts and a big smile. His car's newly washed for a newly warm spring day, and hopefully later, a newly warm Claire. And everything seems champagne sparkling and whiskey sour dry as he leaves for work at 10:23 a.m. Of course, you know that by 12 p.m., it's all going to change. And that's great. Then we cut to Clarence O'Dare. He's in a diner with his partner, offering his partner tickets to go see the Corsairs versus the Kings. So it's the Gotham City Knight against the Star City Corsairs in the NHL. That's cool. I like when I hear those things. I'm a quasi-sports nut. I mean, I generally pay attention but not follow. I'm a big baseball fan, but my team is is the Oakland A's. And if you're a baseball fan, you understand the pain I'm going through emotionally with that. But then you see Clarence and his partner fighting two bank robberies at once, chasing some bad guys in the street, and then by 3 p.m. doing another. Then there are these nice interludes where there's this interlude with Assistant of Opal. Let me read this. These pages aren't numbered. So it would be to page 4. And there's this gentleman. He's named Tony Florence, and he's leaning over his baby grand piano in his apartment. A citizen of the Opal, Tony Florence, 3:15 p.m. 3:15 p.m. Tony looks at wood, stained dark like his heart and gleaming bright like his dead wife's eyes. The wood is that of the piano that his wife Jenny played and loved. A few photos and this are all he has to remember her. 2 years since the plane crash and the phone call and the night that woke Tony to tell him of it. No grief, just an aching absence inside. Instead of grief, his heart went cold and dark like the piano would, and that was that. No tears. Tony could smell the smoke outside his apartment, Vulcan's glow at every window. The fire had spread from the gas station 2 buildings over, where one of the missed gang crimes had gone awry. The station's tanks had blown. They'd been clearing out the buildings since then. And then there's this knock on the door. Anyone in there? Come on. Come on. And the fireman gets Tony to leave. And he's kind of in a daze. And he apologized. Yes, I'm ready. I needed a moment to collect some things, important papers and photographs. And then the panelist, he's got one tear. And he's looking back into the apartment where the piano is, knowing it's losing. The caption box is, losing the piano is like losing his wife all over again now. The sadness comes, finally. And he starts crying. And he watches one of his neighbors, Mrs. Lowe, being dragged out by the firemen because she wants him to go back and save her parakeet. And then Tony's thinking, it's the narration, but I think this is thinking. Her and her damn parrot, his voice, his stupid repetition, and Lowe was no kindly soul, a mean, bitter old woman who complaining when Tony had made noise, but thinking in nothing of her pet's cackle, it awoken him too early or kept him from sleep too late. Well, Henry won't be waking anyone now, says Tony. Mrs. Lowe will be alone, no more than the old woman deserves. Mean old bitch, she'll be alone. And then Tony thinks, like I am. And then we cut to the outside, and Tony comes walking out with the bird, and he hands it to Mrs. Lowe. And the caption box is just perfect, man. And this is a perfect 3-page just showing you about the city. Like the wood on the piano and Jenny's eyes and her smile and her sunny ways, Tony Florence's dark, sad heart begins to shine again. And he hands the bird to Mrs. Lowe and goes, no one should have to feel the way I do. And it's just great. And then we cut to Lucy Collins. She's a nurse. Her son Billy is only 6 months old. He hasn't begun to walk. She has to be there for that. And talking, and his first bicycle, first tricycle and bicycle, the first day at school, the first day at college. His shoulder is wet. It's been wet for a while now. She knows that shock's ebbing glance to allow her, oh God, I'm hit. His father died before Billy was born, a U.S. Marine. Helicopter crash and a training exercise. Lucy is all Billy has now. All. I can't die. I have to be there for him. Her leg is wet too. They say it turns into slow motion. They say you see your life flash before your eyes, but all Lucy Collins can see is her young son's face. Nursing Mr. Bailey has been easy work. He was a nice old man, a gentleman, and now he's dead. But Lucy can't die. She can't. And then Nash shows up. Lucy begs, please, I'm sorry. You being alive to report what you witnessed may be enough of a clue to put the police onto my plans. I can't take that chance. Lucy's death is an afterthought to another crime. Murder 4, Red Bailey, retired police commissioner, 3:39 p.m. We cut back to Clarence, and him and a bunch of cops are stopping a bank robbery at Opal City Trust. And then we cut to Mason. Mason is the daredevil. He's running along the rooftops above a jewelry store robbery. and at a moment he jumps, he throws off his hat, jumps with his gun drawn, hits the awning over the shop. It trampolines him into the air, and as he flies sideways, he shoots both of the robbers and takes one in the leg. It's 8:36 p.m. It's a great thing. And then we're back to Barry. Barry's at the hospital worrying about his brother. And then this is probably the most important moment for the O'Dares in this issue. Matt O'Dare. He's watching a bunch of the gangsters he works for cut up drugs and their money. And he's listening to them just talk about Sweeney Todd. It's just, the musical. It's just insane. I love it. They're debating what's a better musical, Into the Woods or Sweeney Todd by my favorite musical writer, Sondheim. I love it. But while Matt's standing there in a daze, just in a dream world almost, Scalp Hunter, which is the name of his who he is a reincarnation, Brian Savage. He's a white man raised by Indians, assimilated to the culture, fought down bad doers in the West, and eventually retired from that and became the first sheriff of Opal City under his Anglo name. So, but his ghost appears to Matt and goes, "Look at me, Matt. Look at what I am, what you are. Is this the life you wish to lead? Is it? Look at me, Matt. What I am, what you are." And the light's gone. Matt's not seeing Brian Savage. And you hear one of the gangsters goes, "And Angela Lansbury kicks ass." She does. She's wonderful in that. But then they're arguing about Bernadette Peters' version. It's just crazy. I love it. But then Matt just says, "All of you, get away from the stash and drop the weapons and turn around." And they start, "Like the bleep we will. You're in on this. In fact, it's your idea to use the confusion of the crimes, miss crimes." He goes, and they're just throwing it back at him. "I was in on this. No more. Had me a turnabout in thinking. Besides, you're all wrong about Sondheim. Sunday in the Park in George is the best thing either than the other two." And then he shoots all the gangsters in a shootout. Then we cut to a large explosion. I think it's the art dealer's house being blown up at 9:50. Barry O'Dare rescuing people as debris falls. This is the narration there. Why came here? He can't say. No one dispatched him. No orders from on high. Risk is for others. Other cops. Other O'Dares. Not Barry. And then we cut to Hope O'Dare chasing some guys across the rooftop doing these amazing flips and shooting. And she's about to die. One of them's about to shoot her while she hangs on the roof. And then all of a sudden it's our man, the Shade. "I've killed many myself. Many indeed. But there's no excuse for beastliness. None whatsoever. Hello again. Isn't it a wonderful evening? I have need of you, Hope O'Dare, and your delightful family. We must talk. Now this day has ended. 10:48 p.m. And that's the end of it. Boom! It's such a great issue. It's such a great story. It is such a I use pivotal too much maybe, but it's such a movement in the arc of all these characters. I like the first arc, and I love the circus one, but this one starts to shape a relationship. It's building the Scooby Gang for Starman if it was a damn CW show. Okay, that's the closest analogy I got to it. It is absolutely stunningly written and absolutely beautifully drawn. I love the mixture of artists. I love this. I'm not the biggest Stu Inman fan sometimes, but this is some stuff I really like. Tony Harris, whatever. Yeah, it's called Chris Sprouse is a genius. If you've not read Alan Moore's Tom Strong, it's out in Compendium. Please do read it. It's I think it and Top 10 are really my favorite Alan Moore stuff. Andrew Robinson's stuff on 13 and 11 and 13 on the Mason O'Hare stuff is wonderful. I don't recognize, am I a bad person that I don't recognize this artist's name? And I didn't look it up. So I'm going to do a little time traveling and look it up and be right back. All right, I'm back from my little time travel. Andrew Robinson. I've seen some of his stuff. I just don't remember him. And it shows that he did some Grayson, which I had the Omni. I haven't started reading it yet, and did some Multiplicity. He did a lot of stuff. I'm surprised, but I really liked it. It was one of my favorite segments in this book. And I do like the early Amanda Palmer with Hope O'Dare. Overall, I mean, it's really dynamic. This is like this, and the Ted one is we don't have Jack. In the next issue, we don't have Jack. It's really letting us see that this book is more than about Jack. It is about Opal City. It is about all the denizens of that city. That it is a family that everyone, Shade, the O'Dares, ghosts of pirates and Wild West lawmen and superheroes from the Golden Age all want to protect. And Nash Mist, whatever, the new Mist. I'm just going to start calling her Nash. She's amazing, and this is a great plan, and just kind of Tarantinian or time of storytelling where you're cutting back and seeing one person's story, and as it snowballs, it builds. There's more. We understand that something we've only heard in the background of all these crimes mixed in with the murders, how bad it is. You get a feeling it's bad because they're talking about it, but now you see that what Nash has done, where we're moving to in the next 2 or 3 issues, it's just stellar. I really think if you're reading along, please tell me what you think. I really like to hear about it because this is one, I'm enjoying this. There's a lot going on in my world. I posted something little, maybe I overshared post that I may not record or post anything in September just to get my head around things. Work is crazy. I worked almost 60 hours this week, and I've got 2 days off. My wife is gone out of town, taking the dogs to a friend, so I can just sit here and read comics and kind of cleanse my brain. It was a rough week at work. And this comic, man, mental health, boom. Comics are great for mental health. Boom, boom. I cannot say it enough. That the joy of rereading one of my favorite issue from one of my favorite series of all time, my favorite solo superheroes of all time. Just, man, it's great for it. And I got to read an All-Star comic. So we're going to talk about All-Star Comics 9 next. How's that for a quick kind of segue? All right, let's go to Mike's Amazing World for the information. I like his information for some of these. We're going to be covering All-Star Squadron 9. Not All-Star Squadron, All-Star Comics 9. It was cover date February, March 1942. It was on sale December 24th, 1941. It was, the title of the story is Hemisphere. The cover, the editor is Maxwell Charles Gaines. That's very cool. The name of the story is The Hemisphere Defense. Who did the cover art? Does it show it in here? That's weird. I'm assuming, I don't know. It doesn't give credit. That's strange. I will look elsewhere and drop it in when I get through this. Let's just finish this. It is 57 pages. It stars the Justice Society of America of Earth 2. Writer Gardner Fox. Artists Everett Hibbard, Sheldon Muldorf, Bernard Bailey, Ben Flinton, Cliff Young, Stan Ashmeyer, artist Howard Sherman, and artist Jack Burnley for the Starman. This has been reprinted only once, and that is in All-Star Comics Volume 2 hardcover, which is what I read it in, and it's also on the app. All of the All-Star Comics and All-Star Western and the 70s All-Star Comics are all on the app. Go and check them out. And this feature this is Justice League of America. Roll call as Hawkman, Atom, Sandman, Spectre, Dr. Fate, Johnny Thunder, Dr. Midnight, and Starman. The villains are Johann Klaus and members of the Nazi spy ring, Herman and some plane thieves, Adolphus Hecht and his men, a group of Nazi saboteurs, Miguel Gotez and a Cuban spy ring, General Strauss, Herr Korman, and several Nazi soldiers, 9 Nazi mine saboteurs, and Dr. Sen and his men. Oh, I like that. That's a very good rhyme. Dr. Sen and his men. Mike, you're funny. Guest appearance by Thunderbolt, Isa Kramer, which is Dr. Fate's girlfriend, Cher Sanders, who is Hawkman's partner, Hootie the Owl, yay, Diane Belmont, Sandman's paramour, and Myra Mason, who is a friend of the Spectre. And then other characters, J. Edgar Hoover's not named. I found it when reading this. Whenever he pops out, says this magnificent great hero of our nation, and I do not see him as that at all. So, but we'll talk about that when I kind of quickly go over the comic. And I'm only going to really focus on Starman's because this is a Starman podcast. But I will do the synopsis. From Mike's, for the whole issue from Mike's. The JSA is again recruited by the FBI chief to aid America in the fight for democracy. Each member is given an assignment to uncover Nazi spies in Mexico and South America. Hawkman stops saboteurs in Mexico. Spectre stops a thief of aircraft in Argentina. Adam visits Chile to prevent distribution of propaganda. Jesus. Sandman helps Venezuela defeat saboteurs. Dr. Fate protects Brazil. Starman protects the mines of Bolivia. And Dr. Midnight foils the plot in Colombia. While finally, Johnny captures spies in Cuba despite his inability to speak the native language. When the USA reunites at the Panama Canal, they are greeted by their girlfriends who have brought them in to celebrate their victories. Oh, Myra is Dr. Midnight's girlfriend. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. And some comments. This is Starman's final Golden Age appearance with the JSA in his original costume. His first appearance in his new costume was in the 7th issue of Adventure Comics number 69. The girlfriends of the JSA are brought in to meet them at the end of the story. 5 girls are shown, 3 of which are Isna Kramer, Sierra Sanders, and Daisy Darling. The other 2 are not named, but assumed to be Myra Mason, Dr. Midnight's assistant, and Diane Belmont, Starman's girlfriend. Doris Lee may also have been present, but since she has no knowledge of Ted Knight's alter ego, it's doubtful she was in attendance. This was fun. It was nice to read it. It's a Golden Age comic, and I love the Justice Society, and I love all their appearances, and I do love these Golden Age comic books. But there is part of it it was written in a different time. And you look at it, as I say over and over again, and you all are going to get sick of it because I'll say it over and over again, that you have to read, and when you read things from their era, you have to put them in context of their era and then reflect upon it based on your present state. And me reading this, I've read this before. I read this 25 years ago. Say, my take on it is very different because 25 years has happened. My view of American history has changed the more I learn about it. And the more I realize, I broke the indoctrination of being a child of the Cold War. We're indoctrinated in a lot of garbage. I just watched Ice Station Zebra. Folks, watch it. It's a great movie. I don't remember it being as studio-ish, but I really enjoyed it. It's a great 60s kind of spy thing, but it's kind of, the Russians are not the bad guys, per se. It's just two nations wanting the same thing. And I appreciate that, which is kind of ahead of its time in a lot of ways, because it used to be they were just the bad guys. But this one is, it was published. It had to have been written before the war, but we were already fighting. The United States government was fighting against Nazi saboteurs and propaganda in this country prior to the war because Hitler was a piece of shit. All right, and FDR and his administration knew he was a piece of shit and was going to do what he could within his legal abilities to help hit the British. By now, when this came out, we're actively in the war. But before then, he was like, we're supporting France. We're supporting different countries. We're not. So it sheds the Nazis, and Gardner Fox and them, it's like Nazis suck. Fascists are pieces of shit. So, but they have one of the worst pieces of shit ever to hold a governmental thing, a true piece of shit, J. Edgar Hoover, in it. And this time they think he's here. He's been in charge of the FBI for 21 years or so, whatever he became. It was in the 20s. But, eventually he's just spying on everyone. He is just a horrible human being, repressing certain parts of his own personality. And I don't see him as any better than, say, Roy Cohn. Okay, these are two 1950s, these are people who were portrayed as great patriots, were nothing but horrible people who hated themselves and attacked everyone who wasn't what they wanted to be in their own twisted mind. thing they weren't. It's too much to go into, but him in it makes it kind of taints it. And also the part that they're going to our allies in South America. Some of those countries didn't really like us. We didn't like, we peed in that pool. Us to complain about the Nazis doing it, interfering in their stuff with propaganda. We did it all the time. We did it from the early part of the 20th century till well into the 20th. Probably we're still doing it, but we kind of thought this was our playground. So that was just, for me, it was kind of weird thinking with modern thing that whole opening thing is kind of not tainted, but wow, do I have a different viewpoint than they do in this? But I understand that. It was a simpler view. You didn't have all the information, and our government wasn't sharing information when we meddled in other countries or we butted into other people's business. But this is, I don't think they liked the Nazis either. They didn't. These South American countries wanted, they didn't want the Spanish, they didn't want us, they didn't want the Nazis. They wanted to be their own country. So the rest of this, where they come in and works, and it's great. The Hawkman stuff is beautiful, beautifully drawn by Sheldon Waldorf. It is just absolutely stunning. Everett Hibbert is doing the bookends. Spectre, again, it's Bernard Bailey. It's absolutely beautiful. It's very weird. Hawkman's is just pretty much their saboteurs, and he beats them all up. The Spectre, there's these giant helicopter blimp things the Brits have designed, and they're stealing airplanes so they can have more airplanes. And the Spectre uses a lot of magic. He goes giant. He shows up as Jim Corrigan, and he gets captured. And it's just weird. Bailey's art, I kind of like it for this. I like it. I'm starting to decide to reading these that I've said I have problems sometimes with Golden Age art looking rushed, and it is rushed. But I do like the stylistic tone that these guys have. Adams in Chile, battling propaganda. Robert Ailes went to, was it Chile? I don't know if it was Chile. It was one of those, and he was using what he did in South America under the Reagan administration, later on what he did when he created Fox News. So I thought of that while I was reading it. All right, that's me hating on Fox and Robert Ailes. But I'm just saying that we did it. This is something that we did, and this is kind of weird when I read it. The Sandman's great. I didn't realize this is the last time we see him in the best costume ever for this character. One of the greatest Golden Age costumes ever. He's fighting saboteurs. Basic. There's a little Flash celebrates the president's 75 Diamond Jubilee, and it's about infantile paralysis. And I like that they took time to do this. They were talking about raising the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis. I think that becomes the Marcia Dimes, if I remember history right. But they donated an ad. It's the 60th, and the drawing was by E.E. Hibbard and donated by the company. Next, we have Johnny Thunder in Cuba, and he's an idiot, and he's the only one who doesn't speak Spanish. But it's a fun little comic. Johnny's starting to grow on me. Doc Fate, where he's just a Superman. This one is really good. I like it. The art on this is a little bit better than the last issue, I think. But the Giants have they have their first helicarrier, it looks like. It's like, wow. And he's battling getting the plane down, and from the Germans having more of them, I guess. It's all these super weapons. It is that era of sci-fi, and a lot of these people were sci writers. Then we get to this amazing. It's another beautiful Jack Burnley, Gardner Fox, Starman story. He goes to Bolivia, and he finds out that the Nazis are they need the tin. And the caption in this is, "The tin mines of Bolivia are known the world over. Also, the largest lake in South America is 12,500 feet above sea level in Bolivia, Lake Titicaca. This water never freezes and will not rust steel. Bolivia is a mighty mining nation, producing 1/4 of the world's tin and being rich in tungsten, silver, lead, zinc, antimony, copper, and gold." So that's why they want it. But Starman visits the office of La Section Extradita. I'm terrible. Bolivian secret police, and he's told about it. He discovers that he goes to help the miners, and he's there for a week, but he doesn't know that the Nazis built a giant science fiction mole machine. They show up and attack him. He fights them with some axes, like it was Sazu. If you haven't seen the movie Sisu, and you like kind of action pack beat up Nazi movies, me and my wife watched it. It's amazing. SISU. It's set in Finland during the Second World War. It's Nazis get killed. I love it. But Starman chases the mole device to the Nazi headquarters. There's a fight. There's a cave-in, and he's knocked unconscious. And the Nazis are going to send the boring tank to kill him. But Starman, his gravity rod, which lifts him up. It's always tied to his wrist. It jerks him conscious, and he goes, "Oh, my head, what happened?" "I see. The vibration of that machine must have started the magnetism of the gravity rod. It pulled me out of the way just in time." And then he melts it down, and he captures the Nazis. It's a really good one. It's still the best art in this whole thing. Then we have Doc Midnight. Doc Midnight goes to, where's he? He goes to Colombia, does a little blow, and fights the bad guys. He does not do a little blow, but he saves the day against propaganda, more propaganda that's on the radio. And then they all get back, and there's a surprise. And the lady Johnny met pulls a prank and comes in and teases him. And it ends a happy ending. It's great. It was a lot of fun. Especially the Doc Fate stuff. I mean, the Starman stuff. And that's it for this one. When we come back, we're going to do... if you read All-Star Squadron, Roy told the same story, 9 issues, that they'd taken 57 pages, and neither story is the greatest ever written. But this was it. The individual chapters I really like. I don't mind a good World War II propaganda story in film or some of them are really well made, but they are, and it's a time when we viewed the world differently. But the entire America and England and the Soviet Union were all against fascism, and fascists are the worst. The Nazis were the worst. They were real villains. The Nazis, not the German people. I will never say Germany. I always say the Nazis, because that country was taken over by an evil group. It was not all of them. They fought in it and they supported it and they paid for it. But I will always refer to the Nazis as the aggressor. And we had to fight them. So this is necessary. Fox is showing his patriotism, and that I know that all the people who probably worked on this were anti-Nazi. A lot of the early comic creators, not Fox, but others were Jewish and had family members or a lot of people fled from the Nazis. So it was. I understand why it was written. Just my viewpoint from 2023 changed my viewpoint on some of it. But overall, I enjoyed it, and it's a good comic, and they're good to read. It's also good for there are some incredibly bad Golden Age comics that are incredibly racist, and some of it, you'll see some of it in All-Star Comics. But for this one, I liked it, enjoyed it. It was neat to read it, even though, my 2023 eyes changes my take on it a little bit. But that's what art is, man. You got to reevaluate. It's constant. When you reread something, it's affected by when you're reading it. But it was fun. There's a lot going on in life. Work is crazy. My mental health, I manage it. My wife tries to help me manage it, but the last couple of weeks we've been incredibly short. I'm down some bodies. I'm working a lot of extra hours. I'm tired. And I'm just at kind of a wit's end, and I need to take a pause. So I'm going to take a pause in September. It could be the entire month. But I am going to get some stuff up. The wife is giving me some mental health 36 hours or 24 hours. She's gone down to North Carolina for her godson's birthday, and she's giving the dogs to a friend of ours. And I'm just going to read comics, watch movies. I just finished watching Station Zebra on Max. Great. I love it. It's a great Cold War submarine spy movie. Great cast. Rock Hudson, Ernest Borgnine, Patrick McGowan, James Brown. It's a really good movie. It held up. The special effects, no, but it was made in 1963, and they made it in the studio, so the Arctic is like a fancy Doctor Who or Star Trek set. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hell of it. It's a touchstone movie. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to record a couple episodes today. I'm going to record with Billy for his show next weekend. And then I'm just not going to record anything for like 2 weeks. Unless I'm feeling up to it. I really appreciate all your support. There's some people made some very nice comments. I appreciate it. The community on the interwebs has been very kind to me. I've made some people that I consider good friends. That means something to me, and you know their voices because they've been on the show. Ron, Dave, Peter, Billy, all of them. They've always been kind to me, very supportive of the podcast, very friendly and warm when we talk, and that helps. I'm enjoying Blue Sky. If you're not on Blue Sky and you get on it, check us out. I think that will be my safe space. I'm not a big fan of Elon Musk. I don't think he's as important as he thinks he is, and I don't think he's really a champion of anything other than himself. He is just no better than any reality TV show star, which is, I have no, whatever. I don't really want to talk about him. I don't care what their opinion. And I don't like some of the things he's doing on Twitter. I like the block button. So I'm test driving others. We're on Instagram. We're on Threads. We're on Facebook. We are on Blue Sky. And we're on Twitter still. But, I'm going to kind of see what community grows, and that might be my mainstay. But I will always post on all of them because that's where I reach the most people. Please give us a shout out when and if you feel like it. Give us a good review when and if you like, either on YouTube or on Apple or whatever. However you listen to my ramblings, I'd appreciate it. I really would. And as always, folks, be safe, be smart. Please be kind to one another. It's so damn important. And read some comics. You know what? Read the comic Firepower by Kirkman and Samey. It's amazing. It's amazing. It tickles my Iron Fist, Plowman Iron Fist kind of vibe. That's my, and Master Kung Fu. I'm a children of that generation. All right, read those. Peace out.